What if one of the most famous places on Earth is hiding its greatest secret, where almost nobody is looking? Not in the temples, not in the terraces, not in the perfectly carved stones that have fascinated travelers for generations, but beneath them, deep below the mist-covered peaks of the Andes, beneath the sacred city the world calls Machu Picchu, there are theories, whispers, and persistent suspicions that something else may exist in silence. Hidden corridors, sealed passages, underground chambers, and perhaps evidence that Machu Picchu was never just a royal retreat or ceremonial center, but part of a far larger and more disturbing mystery. For decades, millions of people have looked at Machu Picchu and seen wonder. They saw genius, beauty, and the astonishing skill of Inca stonework, but others looked at the same site and saw something more unsettling. They saw alignments too deliberate to be accidental. They saw sacred spaces that seemed to hint at deeper functions. They heard stories of tunnels, inaccessible cavities, blocked entrances, and underground routes that may have been sealed long ago. And they began to ask a question that still refuses to disappear. What if Machu Picchu was built not only to be seen, but also to hide something? Before we go deeper, take a second to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join this project if you enjoy serious mysteries, forbidden histories, and theories that challenge the official narrative. And when you hear everything in this story, comment below and tell me what you think. Do you believe Machu Picchu still hides a secret underground network? Or do you think the tunnel theory has been exaggerated over time? Your opinion matters, and I want to know where you stand before we reach the end. Machu Picchu is often presented as one of archaeology's greatest triumphs, but in truth, it remains one of its greatest puzzles. Built high in the Peruvian Andes and largely unknown to the outside world until the early 20th century, the site has long been described as an Inca royal estate, a ceremonial complex, or a sacred retreat linked to the Emperor Pachacuti. That explanation may be partly true, but even after decades of study, many questions remain unresolved. Why was it built in such a remote and dramatic location? Why does its design appear to balance political, astronomical, religious, and defensive functions all at once? And why do some parts of the site feel less like a simple settlement and more like a carefully encoded map of beliefs, power, and hidden access? The deeper researchers and explorers looked into Inca architecture. The more extraordinary the civilization appeared. These were people capable of shaping enormous stones with astonishing precision, transporting materials through brutal mountain terrain, designing cities aligned with the landscape, and integrating construction with spiritual symbolism in ways modern observers still struggle to fully interpret. To the Incas, mountains were not just geography, they were sacred beings. Caves were not just openings in rock, they were entrances to powerful dimensions, places of origin, ritual transition, and contact with forces beyond ordinary life. Once you understand that worldview, the idea of hidden underground spaces begins to feel much less absurd and much more significant. This is where the mystery of Machu Picchu begins to shift, because the moment you stop looking at the site only as a set of ruins and start looking at it as a sacred machine, every sealed opening, every unusual cavity, every inaccessible section of stone begins to feel loaded with possibility. There have long been stories tied to Inca sites about hidden corridors, ritual chambers, underground routes, and protected areas known only to priests, elites, or guardians. In the Andean imagination, the world above and the world below were deeply connected. So when theories emerged that Machu Picchu may contain or conceal subterranean features, they did not appear in a cultural vacuum. They emerged inside a much older tradition, in which the underworld was part of sacred geography. Some theories suggest that secret passages may connect important parts of the site, either internally or through natural and modified cavities hidden beneath visible structures. Others claim that sealed entrances and unusual voids hint at chambers deliberately closed off, perhaps to protect sacred objects, human remains, ceremonial knowledge, or politically dangerous secrets. And then there is the most controversial possibility of all, that these tunnels were not merely storage spaces or ritual passages, but traces of a hidden layer of history linked to a group, a function, or even a civilization that has never been fully acknowledged. Part of what keeps this theory alive is the nature of Machu Picchu itself. The site is suspended between mountains, wrapped in cloud, shaped by steep drops, stone platforms, and natural rock formations that seem almost fused with human design. It feels hidden even when you are looking directly at it. That atmosphere matters. It is one reason why so many people believe the visible city may represent only the outer shell of a deeper construction. After all, ancient builders throughout the world often created layered sacred spaces, with public zones, restricted zones, and hidden zones reserved for the few. Why would a civilization as symbolically sophisticated as the Incas ignore the power of the underground? There are also architectural details that continue to inspire debate. At Machu Picchu, many stone features appear to serve more than one purpose at once. A staircase may be practical, ceremonial, and astronomical at the same time. A chamber may be residential on one level and symbolic on another. Certain carved stones appear aligned with celestial events, while nearby caves and enclosed spaces suggest ritual use rather than ordinary daily life. This complexity has led some independent researchers to argue that parts of the site may have been designed to guide movement in very controlled ways, keeping some people on the surface while others accessed restricted areas out of public view. The idea of hidden chambers beneath Inca sites is not entirely foreign to archaeological discussion. Across the Andean world, caves and underground features played an essential role in origin myths, funerary traditions, and elite ritual practices. In some locations, natural cavities were transformed into sacred spaces. In others, access was tightly controlled. That does not prove Machu Picchu contains a vast tunnel network, but it does make the theory harder to dismiss outright, especially when combined with local stories, reports of blocked spaces, and recurring claims that not everything beneath the site has been fully explored or publicly discussed. And that is exactly where the phrase forbidden mystery begins to make sense. Because for believers in this theory, the greatest secret of Machu Picchu is not just that tunnels may exist, it is that the truth about them may have been ignored, minimized, or deliberately kept quiet. Some argue that authorities have long preferred a controlled interpretation of the site, one that is easier to present to the public and safer for tourism, heritage management, and academic stability. A hidden underground network would complicate everything. It would raise questions about purpose, chronology, access, ritual secrecy, and the possibility that Machu Picchu still contains untouched areas capable of rewriting what we think we know. Now, to be serious, we have to separate possibility from proof. There is no universally accepted public confirmation of a vast secret tunnel system under Machu Picchu that reveals a hidden civilization in the dramatic way sensational headlines often suggest. That needs to be said clearly, but the absence of complete confirmation is not the same as the absence of mystery. Archaeology is full of cases in which sacred sites revealed new chambers, hidden cavities, sealed passages, or previously overlooked functions long after experts believed the major questions had already been settled. The mountains still hold secrets. That much is beyond doubt, and once you accept that, another question begins to emerge. If hidden spaces do exist beneath or around Machu Picchu, who were they meant for? Were they emergency routes built for protection in times of crisis? Were they ceremonial paths used by priests during restricted rituals? Were they tomb-related spaces, designed to conceal bodies, relics, or offerings of immense spiritual value? Or could they belong to an older stratum of occupation, a layer of construction, or sacred use that predates the city as we know it? That last possibility is what pushes the theory into truly provocative territory. Some alternative researchers believe Machu Picchu may not be the beginning of the story, but a later monument built over something older. In that reading, the Incas may have inherited, adapted, or sanctified a place whose importance already existed before their most famous phase of occupation. If so, hidden tunnels or sealed chambers could preserve traces of a forgotten culture, an earlier sacred center, or a network of subterranean symbolism whose original meaning was only partially preserved by later builders. This is the point where the phrase hidden civilization enters the conversation. Of course, that idea is controversial for good reason. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and no responsible investigation should present speculation as settled fact. But mystery thrives where evidence remains incomplete, and Machu Picchu is one of those rare places where incomplete evidence feels especially powerful. The silence of the stone, the precision of the construction, the sacred use of caves in Andean tradition, the inaccessible spaces, the possibility of sealed voids. The mountain itself, which seems to invite the suspicion that what is visible was never meant to be the whole story. There is also something deeply human behind this fascination. We are drawn to the idea that the greatest monuments of the ancient world may still be unfinished stories. We want to believe that beneath the polished explanations in guidebooks and textbooks, there are doors that were never opened, corridors that were never mapped, and truths that remain just beyond official certainty. Machu Picchu amplifies that feeling because it already feels impossible. It sits between earth and sky, surrounded by steep peaks and drifting clouds, like a place suspended outside normal history. If any famous site could conceal a hidden layer of reality, many people feel it would be this one. And then there is the emotional force of the tunnel itself. In mystery and myth, tunnels are never just passages. They are transitions. They lead from known to unknown, from surface to depth, from human order to buried truth. To imagine secret tunnels beneath Machu Picchu is to imagine a second city of meaning below the first one, a shadow world beneath the stone terraces, where the official explanation ends and the forbidden one begins. That is why the theory remains so powerful even without final proof. It offers not just a hidden structure, but a hidden narrative. If one day a sealed corridor were opened, and if that corridor led to a chamber untouched for centuries, the consequences would be enormous, not just for tourism or headlines, but for our understanding of the Andean world itself. A preserved ritual space, an elite burial chamber, hidden artifacts, evidence of a pre-Inca occupation, or inscriptions that changed the timeline of the site would shake archaeology at its core. Even a far more modest discovery could transform the debate, because when a place is already one of the most mysterious sites on Earth, even a small hidden room can alter the meaning of everything around it. That is why this theory refuses to die. It survives because Machu Picchu feels incomplete in the most compelling way. Not incomplete as a ruin, but incomplete as a story. Too precise to be simple, too symbolic to be purely practical, too sacred to be fully transparent, and perhaps too carefully designed to reveal all of its purposes at once. Whether the tunnels are real in the dramatic sense some claim, or whether the truth is smaller and more ritual than sensational theories suggest, the deeper point remains. Machu Picchu still holds unanswered questions, and unanswered questions are where the strongest mysteries live. So what are we really looking at when we look at Machu Picchu? A royal estate in the clouds? A ceremonial city aligned with the mountains and the stars? A protected spiritual center with hidden access points known only to a chosen few? Or the visible surface of a far older and more concealed story waiting beneath the rock? Maybe the most dangerous mistake is to assume we already know, because history has a habit of revealing its biggest secrets only after generations have stopped expecting them. In the end, the forbidden mystery of Machu Picchu is not only about tunnels, it is about the possibility that one of the world's most celebrated archaeological sites still has the power to surprise us at the deepest level. It is about the suspicion that beneath the beauty, beneath the engineering, and beneath the accepted narrative, there may still be silence hiding structure, and structure hiding truth. And if that truth is ever fully revealed, it may not simply tell us more about the Incas, it may force us to reconsider how much of the ancient world remains hidden in plain sight. Now I want to hear from you. Do you believe Machu Picchu hides secret tunnels and sealed chambers that could change history, or do you think this mystery has grown larger than the evidence really supports? Leave your theory in the comments, because I want to know what you think. And if you enjoy serious content about mysteries, conspiracies, ancient secrets, and forbidden history, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to support the project, because sometimes the greatest discoveries are not the ones we have already found, but the ones the world was never meant to see.